Welcome, everyone. I am John Ryan. This is the Predictive Playbook Sports Betting Show, and this is a very special edition because I have three really smart guys in the room with me. And it's always better to have smarter people surrounding you in life than not. I know that for a fact because I'm pretty old, and I became a grandfather on Friday of last week for the first time in my life. It's truly an amazing experience. But I just thought I'd give a little shout out to the newest member of the family tree and just really good stuff. But anyway, we're here to talk about the Super Bowl, and we're going to have some fun here. I'm going to try to score this the best I can. In fact, maybe the people that are listening right now can put their 2 cents into the chat room and award you guys points. Now, I know the answer because I created the question, but the question is very simply, name the running backs of the Super Bowl history that have gained 100 or more rushing yards in that game. There are 22 of them. 22 unique names, if you will. So it's a pretty exclusive list. And I guess that's about it for the introduction. I'm trying to find my list actually right now. You know what we're going to do? We're going to segue right to the wide receiver question because I don't know what happened to my running back list, but nevertheless, it's my show, right? So I can do this. So now the question becomes, in the career of the NFL player, there's been 31 wide receivers who have caught 2 or more touchdown passes in their Super Bowl career. So your task, gentlemen, is to name those players. I think you probably can get the first one. In fact, I'm going to take that off the list right now because that shouldn't even be awarded a point because it's so obvious in Jerry Rice with 8. He is number 1. Yeah. We'll go right around the horn here. You name one. I'll tell you if it's right. We'll start with Rudy.
You know what? You actually took my answer. So if you took that off the board, I probably wouldn't be able to answer. There's only one guy, and that would be Jerry Rice. He did it twice. There are other guys who've done it before. Guys like Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, Larry Fitzgerald, and Anquan Boldin. And those guys are the best duos of all time, but they never were in a Super Bowl together to win the Super Bowl and actually receive a touchdown.
So one of your names was, what was the first name you said?
That was
Fitzgerald?
No, it was Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce.
Yeah, and as you said, they're not on the list.
Right. So I'll have to defer. If they're not on the list, I'm deferring.
So
well, you must know one that is on the list that has had 2 receiving touchdowns in their Super Bowl careers. That means they could have one in one in another, et cetera, et cetera.
That's going to be tough. How
about number 88 of the Steelers?
Oh, well, that would be Mr. Lynn Swann.
Very good. There you go. He gets a point, I think.
That one. I don't know. You may have to add
a clue, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
if necessary. So that one is checked off, and Jerry Rice is checked off. Let's move to Alexander and see if he has an answer for us of the remaining 29.
I'm going to give it a shot. And by the way, I am working on the next question. I'm not Googling, I swear. But I'm going to go with my nemesis and the Cowboys. I'm going to guess Michael Irvin, since he was the winner in 3 Super Bowls. You'd think he'd catch 2 touchdowns.
Right. He did catch 2 touchdowns. So, ding. Right. Point awarded to Alexander. Good answer. Let's move over to Bo and see what he has for us. And by the way, I'm going to award more points for the more of an outlier name that probably some people have never even heard of. That gets more points for those really difficult ones to identify.
Yes, I mean, I'm pretty sure Larry Fitzgerald did get 2.
You're correct. There's another point awarded. Keep track of your own points too. Back to Rudy.
You're giving way too much information there. I'm gonna have to go with James White.
James White. Do not see him. Do not see him on the list. Well, there's definitely running backs listed in the list. So surprised that he's not there. That's good, Alexander.
I'm as well.
It's okay if you get, I mean, we just move along until we get most of these answered. So Alexander, you have a name?
Did we already, I'm struggling here, but did we already pick Anquan Bolden?
I thought I saw.
No,
maybe he was in two.
Harold.
Yeah,
Not Anquan Bolden.
I'm pretty sure he'd be on there.
Yeah, Larry Fitzgerald is on the list. Anquan Bolden is not.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
well, I tried. I'm out of ideas. I'm working on.
That's okay. I'm going to start giving you hints.
I've got another area of expertise.
So we'll go to Bo.
I'll go with Cooper Kupp.
Say that again.
Cooper Kupp.
Believe it or not, no.
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not, that's a great Oh, yes, he did. Yes, he did. I apologize. He did. He has two.
He did. I watched that game.
Yep. He has two. Back to Rudy then, and here's you're gonna get a clue. Number 87 of the New England Patriots.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
Tom Brady just loved throwing to him.
Gronk.
There you go.
Yep. Ding. He's actually second on the list. And
I was going to
go
say,
right
when
down
you
the
said
list from top to
87,
bottom.
it'd be Matt Sokol, but that's the wrong guy. But also a tight end.
In fact, going forward, all three of you can answer. First one to answer correctly of my hints gets the point. So number 3 on the all-time list has had 3 receiving touchdowns, played for Oakland and the Los Angeles Rams, and wore number 21. And this is going back a little bit with the Raider fame.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Beats me.
What's a common feature on a tree?
A branch.
Yeah.
Oh, Deion Branch.
Deion Branch.
Cliff Branch.
Not Deion, but
Cliff Branch. Oh, Cliff Branch. Wrong branch.
I would have never got that.
Deion is 20 years later. Yeah.
This is a riot.
Yeah.
I'm ready for the running backs.
Number
question,
4 is also 3 touchdowns. Green Bay Packers wore number 86 and was
and Sharp, Sterling Sharp.
Nope, close though. Number 86 of Green Bay, 3 receiving Super Bowl touchdowns.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'd have
One of Rodgers' favorite targets. I'll give myself credit. Antonio Freeman.
Oh, Freeman. Yeah.
Now this one is on the Pittsburgh Steelers again. Same era as that Lynn Swann guy, kind of, and wore number 82. 3 touchdowns in the Super Bowls.
John Stallworth. Yeah.
John Stallworth.
Yep. Yeah. Then we already answered Lynn Swann with number 3. Now it gets
did I get credit for that one? I got his last name.
Yeah, that's fine. I know on Jeopardy you don't have to say the first name to get the credit.
Okay, he said the first name. We should split that.
Last name is Smith. You still get credit.
Split, yeah.
I'm up to a point and a half. I'm counting.
Number 80.
I feel like that's enough to win in this. It's not. I'm not referring to Edelman. It's the other guy that Brady threw to that really didn't do anything after he left New England. But when he was in New England, he was kind of like the third option behind Gronk and Edelman. Number 80, first name Danny.
Oh, I want to say Whitehead, but it's not Whitehead. It's
That's
Edelman.
right. It's Amendola.
Amendola.
We'll do a couple more, and then we'll go to the another topic.
I'll skip down the list here to a couple other ones. This guy's playing in the Super Bowl on Sunday. Wears number 87 for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh yeah, Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce, correct.
2.5 points.
Tight end for the Dallas Cowboys, number 84, had 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah. Jay Novacek.
Very good.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I watched those Super Bowls painfully in all detail as a Cowboys hater.
This coach is active in the NFL. I believe he was let go. Played for New England and wore number 50 of all things and scored 2 receiving touchdowns. Mike starts with a V.
Vrabel.
There you go. And the last one we'll do is 2 touchdowns, a running back, number 32 for the San Francisco 49ers.
Ricky Waters.
Correct. Good job.
I didn't expect myself.
Kind of fun, right?
I think I took that round. I think I surprised myself.
You got
I'm
it.
going to call it a 3-way dead heat.
All right.
I don't want anybody, any animosity among us, but let's talk about, we'll get back to the running back question, but let's talk a little bit about, here's
Sorry, guys.
Welcome back, Bo.
Having some crazy signal issues here.
Okay.
John, find out I have a hard stop in about 8 minutes, just to let you know. Just found out. So.
Let's get to your Super Bowl best bet. Like, who you think's going to win? 2 of the topics I thought would be interesting to talk about is, name the team that you think is going to win, given the time constraint, and then say, what does my team have to do to win the game? It could be eliminating one player with their defense against the offense. It could be any of those matchups. I think one particularly is the cornerback Ward going up against Rice, and if he's going to be mirroring him the whole game, where the 49ers will look to take him out and get beat another way. But anyway, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with 49ers over Chiefs. And I think the main path to victory is kind of going backwards, but McCaffrey. If McCaffrey can go wild, Brock Purdy is going to slice and dice the Chiefs secondary. The only way to beat Brock Purdy is give him, absolutely, no, it's kind of the Ravens strategy, right? But if McCaffrey can make some headway on the ground, Brock Purdy is going to slice and dice the Chiefs secondary. He's got incredible ability, when he's got his running game, and I think we're going to see, 4 touchdowns from him in the air if McCaffrey goes wild. So that's the key on offense. Other way around, obviously, if the Chiefs contain McCaffrey, then get to Purdy, they can expose a few of the cracks in the 49ers, which are a few. Meanwhile, the 49ers just need to prevent an absolute, they need to contain Mahomes, which is hard. Sacking him is extremely hard. Don't think they're going to have a lot of success there. They just need to not give up the big plays in the secondary. And I think Mahomes on the other side is key to pushing through. Is if he can just connect with Travis Kelce enough and pull enough attention, he can get a few big plays by and torch him. So those are my keys to winning.
I like it. I'll add this. I think the number one thing for the 49ers to get off to a fast start, because after all, they are a team that did not score a point in the first quarter of their last 2 games, which is very unusual. And it was only I have the history on that. There's only one other team that has ever done it, and it was the Patriots. When they lost to the New York Giants and Eli Manning as a 12.5-point favorite, they lost the game 17-14 and failed to score in the first quarter of those previous games. So I don't know what that really matters, but I think you're going to see San Fran come out with a spread offense. And the reason I think that is because they come out with that infamous 22 scheme where you have the 2 tight ends, 2 running backs. Everything's packed in like you're in an elevator, and Purdy's not going to be able to see where the blitz is coming from. If they spread the field and Shanahan elects to take a little gamble here, then Purdy will be able to see the pressure and where it's coming from right after the snap. And of course, that's the thing that Mahomes does so well. He gets rid of the ball within, like Tom Brady, like 1.8 seconds and minimizes that 49er pass rush. So I'll leave it at that because we're going to talk more about that, I'm sure. Bo, what do you think of the matchup, and who do you see winning?
Yeah, so I have the Niners here, especially since it's only a 2-point spread there. So I have them to cover that. When it comes to the teams, both teams have really good defense, right? They were both basically a top 5 defense. I think it really comes down to if Purdy can play a clean game and if CMC can get rolling early. We already know that Mahomes can make mistakes in the Super Bowl. He only has 5 touchdown throws and he has 4 interceptions in the 3 games. So, I mean, he is prone to turn the ball over. So as long as the Niners can play a clean game and CMC gets going right away, I think they can win this game.
And I definitely agree with that as well. Let's see what Rudy Reyes has to say here about this game. Alexander, you need to take off though, right? So before you take off, just the floor is yours to say anything, promotions you want to mention. I know Pointsville MLB Show is about to start up too. So again, the floor is before you take off.
Appreciate it. Normally I talk about baseball because with Pointsville, we're the #1 loyalty partner in Major League Baseball, and it's not quite official. We are adding on another team right now, so we'll let you know probably in the next week or two. So appreciate that. And you can follow me on Twitter under my name. I just want to say you'd be proud of me. List of running backs. I would like to say I didn't Google any of them. The ones I know, actually, I'm guessing ran 100 yards. Be Emmitt Smith, Thurman Thomas, Ernest Biner, Ricky Waters, Terrell Davis, Marcus Allen, Otis Anderson, Larry Sonka, Darryl Craig. I might have his name wrong. San Francisco running back from the 80s. Curtis Martin, John Riggins, Jerome Bettis, and Walter Payton. I don't even know if John Riggins is a running back, but he's from the Redskins team that won a couple Super Bowls. So that's my guess. You can check me out on that later.
That's cool about John Riggins because I always remember that offensive line was called the Hogs, and the fans would wear that nose that made them look like a hog, right? But in reality, the average weight of that offensive line, who was deemed so powerful and so strong and big, was right around 6'2" and 250 pounds. And it was a long time ago. That was the 70s. And now, if you're not 325, you're a backup at best. So the game has evolved. I don't even know.
Thanks, gents.
Riggins was thanks, Alexander, for joining us. We'll catch you the next time. What was I saying here? I don't know if Riggins even weighed 220. He was definitely a strong-legged running back that would just wear down the opposing team. And that's how they won that Super Bowl. They just kept running and running and running. And I think Joe Theismann was the quarterback. That'd be worth looking up. But whoever it was didn't have to throw the ball over the field like the modern game. But anyway.
Yeah, I'd really be interested in that. I definitely would want to see that, see that information and see those numbers. As far as what my keys to the game on both sides, I'd probably say the amount of pressure that Kansas City could disguise as they approach the line, getting to Brock Purdy into the backfield will do a couple of things. That'll change their play calling. It'll change the way and who they throw that ball to in the slant, whether it's Kittle, whether it's McCaffrey. Kittle was limited yesterday in regards to a toe issue that he had leading up to this game. I think that if the 49ers can find gaps in the secondaries, you mentioned, John, I think they have a chance to move the ball down the field in chunk plays and in chunk yards. And I think there's a lot to be considered for how well the Chiefs decided to come up and decided to play defense, so much so that helped them capitalize against the Baltimore Ravens and intercept Lamar Jackson in the end zone. on the other side of that ball, as you mentioned, Bo, it's going to be very difficult to sack, if not impossible to sack Patrick Mahomes. He does so many great things well outside of the pocket. He knows how to throw on the run. He has a very high football IQ. He's a baseball guy in an NFL uniform, and that's how he treats the football, being able to get out from under when the pressure breaks down up front. If they can capitalize and use Travis Kelce in ways where he could be a blocker and then go off and catch the ball, that's certainly an option for them. They have Isaiah Pacheco, who's done just phenomenal things, biting kneecaps off, gaining first downs. He has this very tough, rigorous mentality that just makes him so hard to beat. I'm not going to say the most intelligible person, but as far as from a football acumen standpoint and just straight up bestiality, he certainly has that down pat. I think that the 49ers could be exposed a little bit in the secondary. I know they're going to try to go downfield to Rice maybe, or put him in the slot. That's certainly going to stymie what the 49ers are trying to accomplish, at least from a free safety perspective. So I think that if you're the defense for the 49ers, you need to have a QB spy all over Patrick Mahomes on basically every single play. That will help isolate large chunk plays, anything past 10 to 15 yards. So I'm going to go with the Niners on this one.
Well, that worries me. We all selected the Niners.
Well, in the betting markets, when I am seeing it, it's somewhat rare. There is a love affair going on with the Chiefs and the betting public. I checked early this morning, and you have a situation where only 35% of the bets are on the 49ers, but the line has gone from -1.5 to -2, and they're 54% of the handle that the Vegas books are taking in is on the 49ers. So when you have only 35% of the tickets, 54% of the handle, and it's moved a half point against the public, it usually doesn't work out too well for the public. But that's just one of dozens and dozens of handicapping tools that you can use to identify potential bets. Mm-hmm. Let's move on to the prop bet, shall we?
By all means.
Yeah.
The one of the ones that I like, and if you can pull up any of the betting sites you want to identify the ones you want to talk about. I've actually been very impressed with Bet at ESPN. When it was Hollywood, with all due respect to them, I never used them. It just was, back in the day when the spreads were a little bit wide and the VIG was pretty high and there was better options. But they've done a really, really nice job with implementing that into the ESPN platform. So if you haven't checked it out, do yourself a favor and do that. Because I think if you bet $5, I think it's a promotion. If you bet $5 and win, you get like another 100 or 200. And if you lose, you get another 100 or something like that. The promotion's very clear. I obviously am not. But the markets there are really good, and their live betting also works really well. And you guys know I like to do that as well. Let's start. Rudy, do you have a player prop, or should we go with Bo first?
Go with Bo. I'm not a big betting guy. I know the numbers are out there, and I know that they're good. But here's my only take on the whole betting component as it pertains to Super Bowl 58. That the Chiefs wanted the hate, and they got a lot of it on the podium on opening night. And I think that could be a potential reason why you see an upswing in prop bets for the Kansas City Chiefs and individual player bets, because of all the hate that's associated with the Kansas City Chiefs. They are now the opposite of where they were last year. People were, as a matter of fact, I was at Radio Row last year, and I was all over the Eagles bandwagon because they had all the weaponry. They did it early and often throughout the regular season. There was nearly no deficiencies whatsoever in any phase of their game. And then they wet the bed. And then on the other side of that coin, the Kansas City Chiefs weren't really being talked about a whole lot. And they weren't the evil ones, but they're the evil ones now. It's almost as if they're the New England Patriots in 2024 based on the amount of hate that's associated with it. So that's probably why you see somewhat of an upswing for prop bets for the Kansas City Chiefs. And overall, I think on a long-term betting standpoint, you're going to see a lot more, and it's going to probably tilt in the favor of the Kansas City Chiefs. Outside of that, I don't have any specific prop bets for any player, so I'll let you guys tackle that one.
Yeah, I mean, so to your point there, you're definitely right. I think there is. I don't think they're really the villains here. I think what it is it's just fatigue of dynasty, right? So you went directly from the Patriots dynasty straight into KC just owning the AFC side. And so I think there's just some fatigue of lack of options coming into this game. So I don't think anybody necessarily hates KC, but they're like, we sure would like to see someone else.
Sure. And they wouldn't. And I think that's one of the reasons why you're going to see this kind of a bet swing. And sure, the crowd really got into it, especially when Travis Kelce was talking. Whether that has to do with Taylor Swift, it doesn't matter. I think just his persona. I'm not a huge fan of Travis Kelce. I did meet his parents last year. He seems like he comes from pretty decent stock. I just don't know what happened. On the other side of that, Jason Kelce, very level-headed, very equalized as far as his mentality, his mindset, how he approaches the game, his workout ethics, things of that nature. I think that's more on point as to what they had intended when he was born. Just saying, I'm not slamming Travis Kelce. I'm just saying that predominantly a guy that you want to lead your team isn't a wacko and all he wants to do is party, versus a guy who has probably a little bit too much alcohol, probably doesn't do it very often, and sticks his bare chest out there howling to a moon that he can't see at a Kansas City Chiefs game.
I mean, it sounds like that's how he met his wife anyway, so it can't be that infrequent. Thanks
Probably
for tuning
not.
in, Wen. But
I'm just saying, I'm just pointing that out there. And you're going to see, again, the upswing is there. What that looks like, I don't know. I'm not a betting line guy. I don't bet. I don't even buy scratchers. So
yeah,
hopefully that tells you something.
I think the prop bet that I like on this one is an anytime pick by Mahomes. It's -100, which is pretty easy line. And based on his history, it's a pretty safe bet to take.
That he will throw at least one interception.
Exactly. Anytime interception. So it's not even like it has to happen in a specific quarter or whatever. And at -100, like that's a pretty easy one to stomach.
Yeah.
I like that one too. And I can go a step further and call the player being Ward. My gut, I have no other reason than my instincts and my experience to tell me that the Kansas City could start forcing the ball to Rice.
Yep.
And in that matchup, I think that's not a good matchup for Rice, even though he's been outstanding the last couple of weeks. And all it takes is that one jump route with him knowing that he has safety help deep down the field, and bang, there it is. And that could be a pick six.
For sure.
Well, that brings up an interesting topic. Will a defensive player win the MVP this year?
No.
Because it's going to take a pick six and then some.
Yeah.
No, I would put more money on CMC winning than a defensive guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with you because he's so dynamic. And the biggest question mark is going to be how much pressure can Kansas City get on Patrick Mahomes, and will they force him to be uncharacteristically unaware of who's around him? Can they do it early and often? Can they disguise the blitz? An offensive line is going to have their hands full. There's no question. But whether or not Patrick Mahomes can make those alterations, albeit in the first, second, or even at halftime, is going to be the bigger question.
Well, and it's not like you're going to see Kelce go 11 for 11 like he did last week, right? He's going to come back to reality. So, I mean, it only takes one mistake to change this game, right? So I think this is one where, some of those mistakes will happen. Again, we've watched Mahomes make these Super Bowls before. Kelce, outside of last week, has had quite a few drops. Something that has plagued that receiving core all year. I imagine they're going to have a little better time because I'm pretty sure they've already sent Tony to, Cabo, but don't need any of those drops. But At the same time, that entire receiving core has had some drops throughout the season. So there's going to be opportunities. It's just whether or not they're going to be in the right spot to capitalize on them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think mistakes will be aplenty in certain aspects of this game that will be game changers, momentum changers, and shifters. Now, the 49ers have a different have a different roster now that they're in the Super Bowl than the guys that actually helped them get there to the Super Bowl. And I mean guys like George Kittle. He's still questionable. There isn't anything definitive, but I expected that to be cleared up. Yeah, I know, right? It's like George Kittle. Where's he been? He's been limited. He was limited in the NFC Championship game. He was limited throughout. I think when you look at guys like Charlie Warner, Braden Willis, Aaron Banks, Ben Barch, Stink Brendel, these guys are supplementary players. They almost add a complement to the actual roster on the Super Bowl, and you're going to see rotations. You're going to see guys that maybe, and hopefully, heaven forbid, anybody major who's in the starting roster gets injured, because you're going to see these fillers come in, like a Ben Barch or Jake Brendel for the 49ers, Buford or Feliciano. No relation to Jose, or maybe he is. I don't know, but he didn't miss his trip during Christmas. But you're going to have those guys. You're going to see a Colton McKivitz, who I'm actually quite impressed with throughout the regular season. He's had a lot of great pancake blocks. He's his hand-foot combination is that much better. He knows how to get off of the ball and being able to prevent pass rushers from getting into the backfield to affect Purdy's throw. Matt Pryor's had to come in. Trent Williams is a guy who's been kind of back and forth inside of that starting lineup. So you're going to see some different pieces based on situational football play calling, whether you're in the red zone or whether you're at midfield, or heck, I mean, even if you're trying to kick a 51-yard field goal, let's say. So you're going to see a vast rotation of these guys in order to help them get to the next level, which is clearly, by the end of it all, a Super Bowl ring and a Lombardi and the confetti and the whole 9 yards. Yeah.
Well, and to Alex's point here, you can run on the Niners, but you can actually run on both these teams. That's one of the things that KC isn't super great about, is stopping the run. They're great against the pass, but against the run, CMC will have his opportunities.
What do you guys think about the back end of the Chiefs secondary? Because I think that's where a lot of it's not being talked about, because all the discussion is that San Fran is not going to be able to throw downfield, and they're not going to have many chances to go for those vertical routes. But if they are, that's where I really see the X factor of the whole game. If that, in the second quarter, perhaps they get an opportunity to play action, knowing they have man coverage, and it's completed, then that could be a sea change in the whole game. If Kansas City is up 7-0, and then all of a sudden they connect, that to me is the wild card. I don't know if it's going to be possible or not, but I do think that's where the weakness is in the Kansas City defense overall. But they are the number 2 defense in all of the NFL in scoring defense, so it's hard to make a case one way or the other that that's a possibility. It's a high-risk play, no question.
So that deep strike only works if CMC is going off. Otherwise, it won't be open. And they'll still only get 1 or 2 shots at that.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, right. I completely agree with you. And again, Kansas City is going to mix and match. They're going to put a hodgepodge of guys in there. You've seen Boydo, Nick Jones, McDuffie, Snead, Watson. You're going to see a plethora of cornerbacks, again, based on situational play calling, based on formation and what they're trying to accomplish and defend against that pass. Now, we all know this, that with the pass rush up front, led by, obviously, Mr. Chris Jones, that you're going to see a lot less pressure on the DBs like Deion Bush and Connor, but you're going to recognize that the secondary is going to be prone to make those picks, especially if you get those up front and Purdy makes a vast mistake, which will disable any downfield motion for the 49ers to gain that first down marker. So if the cornerbacks are in position to intercept those balls, you're going to see a lot of guys. You're going to see various guys coming in to actually play based on the field position. It's really about field position, who owns the line of scrimmage, who's going to make the few amount of mistakes. I think the few amount of mistakes are going to be more so on the 49ers side because of how they played. Yes, they had a 3-game losing streak during the regular season, and they figured that out. Brock Purdy not happy about it, but cool as a cucumber. He's been able to make those alterations. He's taken a lot of great constructive criticism from the quarterback coach. He's played in a Super Bowl before. He played for the Denver Broncos, a guy who knows the quarterback position extremely well, and other people around him. And of course, there's one thing I wanted to mention. In 2018, there was a guy by the name of Sam Darnold. Anybody remember him? Okay. He was drafted by the New York Jets, and they were a dumpster fire. And they basically drafted Sam Darnold because they were trying to cover deficiencies on that offensive line by getting a guy who can get out of the pocket and gunsling it. We've seen him do it at SC, and we've seen him do it a little bit with the New York Jets. The problem is that every team that he's went to, he's had almost no great protection, no amount of consistent great protection on that offensive line, disabling him from doing what he does best. He had it while he was at USC in college to a certain extent, but able to make plays downfield. The NFL's speed is not NCAA speed. Anybody that has watched this game, has watched both of those games, know that probably better than anyone. However, with that being said, that's the last person that I interviewed who's now on a Super Bowl roster after going through Carolina, after going through all the muck and all the naysayers and the ghosts on the field and all that nonsense, now finds himself with the ability to back up Mr. Irrelevant, who's not irrelevant anymore, even probably the most relevant player in this matchup. Mahomes, first-round pick, Kelsey, first-round pick. You get the idea. Brock Purdy playing with a chip on his shoulder, similar to that of Tom Brady, who had a chip on his shoulder and played with that chip throughout his entire career. How much success has he had? So I take nothing away from Patrick Mahomes and what he's done during his tenure in Kansas City. I just believe, and I just based on analytics and looking at that from it, kind of putting those two together, I think that you're going to have a real solid recipe for winning. Brock Purdy's not going to force things he shouldn't. He recognizes defensive coverages. He recognizes that there needs to be check down throws. If it's not a check down, it's a throw. If it's not a throw, it's a touchdown. So you have to recognize that those are the three main components that he understands. And his football acumen is through the roof. I mean, he's just become that much better. And I think that this will be an opportunity for him to prove once and for all that he's the most relevant guy on the field.
Well, and you got to keep in mind, during that 3-game slide, they didn't have Debo. They didn't have Trent Williams, right? They didn't have their full complement of weapons. And then when you look at that other loss that they had, where they got absolutely smacked by Baltimore, they just out and out lost that game. They had everybody. They played horribly, and Baltimore came in and beat them up. So when you look over the course of the season, they really only had one bad loss where they actually had everybody there. Outside of that, it was, people just weren't on the field. So they're not really going to run into that. But I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a good battle. It's funny. I think it's going to be the under, right? Because both these defenses are good. They're both going to have to rely on their running games. I think the line was 47.5, or at least it was last night. I think this will end up being like a 24-21, 23-20 kind of game.
Yeah. I completely see that. These teams are so close to one another. You're going to see Spags. Alex, you actually raised a really good point. They're going to disguise coverages, and they're going to blitz when they need to, not when they have to, when they need to. But when you can disguise it, how honest are you going to keep that offense? And again, it goes back to making those mistakes that will prevent you from getting down the field and getting those key first downs. I hate to say a dink and dunk, but if you can methodically put Kansas City behind the chains in a dink and dunk scenario, you can prevent them from getting the opening 7 and keep them at 3 in the first quarter if they don't defer. If they defer, 49ers will end up going down the field and getting 6.
Yeah, and that's one of the prop bets I would actually take is that because there's been the 2 weeks off and there's the craziness that always surrounds the Super Bowl, as I would take a non-opening drive, no touchdown on the opening drive for either team. Right. I would take that. A field goal maybe, but I don't think either one just marches down the field and punches it in on the first drive.
I like that bet too. The one thing I do hope happens on the telecast, and we have two of the best doing the Super Bowl, is it still bothers me that it was, basically broadcast on the major networks that Shanahan was 0-35 when trailing by 5 or more points going into the fourth quarter. Now he's 1-35. But guess what? I can show you a list of dozens of head coaches with similar records, including some really big names like that guy, Bill Belichick, whoever he coached for. He's only done it 12 times.
Is that all?
He's like 12, yes, 12 times. It's mind-blowing. But with all that said, Gruden is actually the all-time leading record without a comeback in the fourth quarter, trailing by 5 or more points. He didn't do it once, and he had 42 situations like that. And if I recall, he is a Super Bowl champion head coach. So I don't know what that really means. Like, they if they mention it, they also have to mention the fact that Andy Reid is number 1 in comebacks in that category with 20, but he's lost 80. That's the best record in the history of being behind by 5 and coming back in the fourth. Granted, the longer you coach, the more wins you can get. But nobody's even – I think Belichick is second with 12. Andy Reid with 20. He's late years ahead of everybody else. But to say that –
the thing is you don't really want to have that record because that means you're playing from behind a lot. Like I would be fine with being 1 for 5 in that scenario because it means you probably were just winning the game to begin with. You weren't behind in the last minutes of the fourth quarter. Hey, I got to jump off, guys. I got to get to my morning show.
Okay.
Thanks for letting me hang out.
Thanks, Bo. Take care.
You too.
Thanks, Bo.
Good
so
stuff.
We'll finish up here in the next 5 minutes or 3 minutes. One prop bet I wanted to mention to people is, and this is a fun one. Will there be how many players will throw a pass in this game? The line is 2.5, and if you say over, you're getting plus 170. I gotta think that there's going to be some kind of gadget play by one of these head coaches that's going to see a wide receiver or a running back doing a flea flicker or something. And at plus 170, I mean, that, pizza money bet of $10, I'll do that to win 17, right?
Sure. And you know what? I will throw in another anchovy in there just because you could see it done on a fake field goal attempt.
That's true.
So
or a 2-point conversion
have been known to happen. I've seen them in Super Bowls. Trick plays are just a simple part of the game. It's to keep that other team honest and offset. And if you can do that, you're not going to get any more than one out of each one of these teams throughout this game on Sunday. You're just not. No one is going to be able to convince me that there's going to be a trick play on every possible. I mean, heck, you can even look at the analytics if you wanted to go there and say, well, either one of these teams are good for just one. I was looking it up just the other day, and I think that you're going to see one per because each one of these teams have done one per within the last 1 to 2 seasons. And throughout any given 18-week season, Kansas City's more prone to do it than Kansas City. So the 49ers are certainly on that list of being able to perform. And it's not just the performance, it's the completion of the trick play, like the actual percentage of completion to do exactly what you had intended, whether it was an offline kick, or whether it was a fake field goal attempt to get a first down if you're 4-2,
really special
in the red zone. Yeah. So, I mean, there's, if you complete it, the higher percentage belongs to the 49ers versus what it does for the Chiefs. Interesting.
Will there be a player to score a touchdown and then score the 2-point conversion after that touchdown?
I like to see big man TD and then a big man two 2-point conversion.
Boy, John Madden would love you, huh?
I'm sure he would. I tell you, I love it. I love it. You got to bring it. You just have to do it, right? We see it happen throughout the regular season. Give it to the big man. Give it to the 290, the 325 guy in an offset offensive line formation. And man, you're gonna have yourself some fireworks. People are gonna be fired up, and Twitter's gonna be blown up with the big man TT and the big man 2-point conversion. So there's a lot to unpack in that one.
And to answer Alex's question here in the chat room, that he mentions that 7 of the 10 are betting on the Chiefs, which is accurate. But the line, the reason that it's contrary to betting the Chiefs and thinking that that is the proper bet is that the line has gone the opposite direction of that flow. So whenever you have a line that goes against what the popular decision is showing, that's a red flag. And which definitely support the 49ers. Now, of course, it's one game, so keep in mind that these things don't always work. And it's just one handicapping angle of dozens and dozens and dozens. We could be on this show for 3 hours, or I could do one for 3 hours and do literally thousands of angles that some would be meaningless and some would not.
Sure.
One of which is that the team that wears white is 37-20 in the Super Bowl. That's 65% against the spread.
So then who is the home
49ers.
Team, John? The 49ers are the home team?
Yes.
Oh,
they're going to be wearing the white. So I'm told. I'm also told that Taylor Swift is going to be there. And, I just hope
she going to sing the national anthem.
Well, she's coming from Tokyo, I think. Isn't she from a tour or something? And she just won. She's the all-time leader now in Grammy albums of the year with 4.
Yeah, 13.
Now, well, I guess if Kansas City, that would be a question. If Kansas City loses and Travis has a bad game, does she break up with him?
I think so. And that should be a prop bet.
It probably is. I haven't gotten through the 52 pages from the circuit yet. I'm only on page like
it's not all 52 pages. But look, it's going to be a prop bet. But if he wins, does he ask her to marry him on live television?
Oh, that would be so. In my humble opinion, that would be kind of tacky, don't you think?
Well, Travis Kelce's not exactly known for not being tacky.
That's true.
He wants to
hopefully she has had her advisors tell him not to do that no matter what.
Maybe Jim Nance is like, no, don't put it away. Put the ring in the box. Put it in your pocket. Wait, I'm wearing cleats and football pants. I don't have pockets.
And I guess last, I'm going to throw this out there. I do lean to the under, and I think, people are going to be watching this game. This is one of those games that, you're going to be watching it. So the live in-game betting, it would make sense if you're going to throw down $100 on the under, maybe consider doing 50% of that pre-flop, meaning before the kickoff. That's, hypothesize that the 49ers actually find a way to score in the first quarter. I can't imagine them going 3 games in a row in playoff environments, including the Super Bowl, where they don't get the act together and score. But if they do, that's good for the live in-game betting, because suddenly you're going to be at 52.5, where you could add a little bit more. And then 56.5 would be my other number to complete the bet. That is the way I see it. The second and fourth quarters in playoff games, including the Super Bowl, are your 2 highest scoring quarters. First quarter, it's like playing in the mud sometimes. So that's not going to help the under bet at all. But history doesn't repeat exact every single game. But anyway, and the last thing I like is I have to do this. I got to put $10 on Charvarius Ward for the reasons I mentioned on the show. He's 200-1 to win the MVP. Let's see, $10, 200-1. That is a lot of anchovies. A ton.
It is.
And,
it's a boatload. Back in the ship on the bay.
It's probably not going to win, but you almost have to do it just for the fun of it.
Just because.
You just never know. And then the other part of that is any defensive player I'm seeing at anywhere from 18-1 to 20-1. So maybe $5 on Charvarius Ward to be the MVP, and then any defensive player to be the MVP for $10. And then we'll stop at that.
Yeah.
And last but not least, the Super Bowl, there are just thousands of prop bets. And even if you do pizza money on all of them, suddenly you have 30 bets and a lot of money on the line.
Right.
And if you have it all on that same team of those players, it's a risk that team basically has to win, and that doesn't guarantee you're going to win your prop bets either. So what I'm just suggesting is be a little careful with this. It's it's just Super Bowl,
Right.
and just don't get ridiculously stupid with how much money you're putting on the game, because
Yep.
betting with your head and not over it is something that I preach constantly.
Yeah, you have to be smart with the money that you're putting out, but I've said before, I'll say it again, I'm not a betting guy, but if you do it with the right intent. Do it and you spend
Yep.
what you can afford to lose and no more.
Yep, and be able to laugh at it when you lose.
Yeah. So, I
If
lost
you get
$5.
angry when you lose, then that probably means you bet too much money.
Yeah, or you shouldn't be betting to begin with. Just throwing that out there.
That's true. That is very true. Well, before we end, Rudy, tell us what's going on with the Rude Dog Show and everything else. The floor is yours.
I appreciate it, John. Thanks. Always a pleasure coming on with you. Everybody can go to the rudedogshow.com. You can find me on Twitter at Rude Dog Reyes. I love talking football and the sports in general during any given regular season. Of course, we still have baseball on the horizon, and regular season will be something I will try to get involved in more so than in past years. But you can always go to the rudedogshow.com. I have episodes in the entire week, including today's show. So tune in for that one. And I'll be on iHeart Radio. So download the iHeart Radio app. I'm delivering the news for KVTA News Talk Radio out of Ventura. So enjoy that. And then on Friday, I will be covering the California regionals, regional reports here in the Sunshine State, / Jury State. But nonetheless, you can always keep that app to listen to that if news is your thing. So I appreciate it, John. Thanks for having me on as usual. And I'll see you again.
Yeah, you got it. And my little shout out is I'm seeing the college basketball card pretty well this year. I'm ranked 4th over at sportscapping.com and many other sites. At sportscapping.com, it's about 100 cappers. So pretty proud of that. It's been a real good hot streak. Every sport has won money this year.
Right.
And believe it or not, Rudy, you know this for a fact. I'm 22-5 in the Super Bowl. I've had some fortuitous wins. That doesn't mean I'm going to win this one, but I will be releasing my Super Bowl pick later today with a few prop bets that you didn't hear about on the show. And I guess until the next show, Rudy, bet with your heads, not over it, and may all the wins be yours.